The story begins in a village in the Sharqiya Governorate in 1926. In the home of a man named Mohamed Kaf, who was 38 years old at the time. He was married to a woman named Abeer, and they had 3 children, 2 of whom were twins. They lived in a family house with Mohammed's parents, Mr. Kashfan, and his wife. Until that point, their life had been peaceful, and they were well regarded by everyone in the village for their seemingly perfect family life. One morning, Abeer went to wake her children for school while her husband was still asleep. As she entered the children's room, she discovered that her youngest child, Selim, was missing. Panic-stricken, she quickly woke the other children and asked them if they had seen their younger brother, but they said they hadn't noticed anything since they were asleep. She left the room and began searching the house for Selim, but he was nowhere to be found. She then went to her in-laws' room. As soon as the grandfather opened the door, she apologized for waking him so early and asked if he had seen Selim. He replied that he hadn't and, worried, joined her in the search for his grandson. Still unable to find him, the grandfather went to ask the night guard if he had seen the boy. The guard denied having seen Selim since the previous day. This made the grandfather suspect that Selim might still be somewhere in the house. By then, Mohamed and the grandmother had also woken up, and the entire family began searching for Selim, again with no success. Mohamed then contacted his co-workers and acquaintances to help search the village, but no trace of the boy was found. Eventually, Mohamed went to the police and filed a missing child report. The police suspected the child might have been kidnapped and began an investigation, starting with Mohamed himself. They asked if he had any enemies who might want to harm him or his family. Mohamed admitted he might, due to his job as a vegetable merchant. He was the largest trader in the village, collecting crops with his father and selling them at the market. Sometimes he refused to sell to certain merchants, which led to conflicts. Some even attempted to burn his fields, prompting him to hire guards. He gave the police the names of 4 individuals he suspected. Upon investigation, it was found that 3 of them were not in the village on the night of the incident. The 4th, a merchant named Amin, was questioned. Amin claimed he had a good relationship with Mohamed and his family, and that they had worked together for years. He even praised Mohamed's father, though he criticized Mohamed for being inexperienced and unprofessional in agriculture and trade. When asked why guards had claimed that Amin's workers had repeatedly tried to attack Mohamed's land, Amin responded that Mohamed treated him harshly in business. He explained that Mohamed now demanded advance payments for produce, unlike his father who allowed post-sale payments. Despite these issues, Amin said he had ended all business with Mohamed for months prior to preserve the relationship with his father. The police then turned their attention to the night guard, who initially claimed he knew nothing. Under pressure, he confessed that he would often sleep through his shifts, because he worked during the day in Amin's fields. He admitted he had grown confident that nothing ever happened at the house and would take the opportunity to rest. When asked how long he had worked for Amin, the guard replied that he had taken the job because Amin paid better than others. This raised police suspicion that Amin might have used the guard to kidnap Selim, though the guard denied it. However, when the day guard was questioned, he insisted his colleague would never sleep during his shift. The police searched the night guard's room and found Selim's favorite toy, confirming suspicions. The guard was arrested and charged with kidnapping, though he denied all accusations, claiming someone else had asked him to do it. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but Selim's fate remained unknown. Mohamed refused to give up on finding his son. His wife, however, lost all hope and became reliant on sedatives. Doctors suggested Mohamed admit her to a psychiatric facility, but he refused. Sometime later, a villager told Mohamed he had seen a child resembling Selim begging in the capital. Mohamed was upset that the man didn't ask for the child's name, but the man said he tried to, only for the child to panic and run. The man followed him and discovered where the child lived with another boy. Mohamed immediately traveled to the capital without telling anyone the reason. Meanwhile, back at the house, Selim's grandmother screamed from the children's room. Everyone rushed to her, and the mother and grandfather found that the twin boys were also missing. The grandmother explained she had gone to check on them and found their beds empty. The grandfather assumed they were playing somewhere else, but after a full search with the help of the staff, the boys were still missing. He went to the police, insisting the night guard had been wrongly accused. The police reopened the case and visited the imprisoned night guard, only to find he had been placed in solitary confinement after a fight. Shockingly, they found him slaughtered in his cell. Though it was ruled a suicide, suspicion remained. The other prisoner involved claimed the fight had no deeper cause and denied knowing why the guard might take his own life. Mohamed returned from the capital after discovering the beggar child wasn't Selim. Upon hearing his other sons had also disappeared, he collapsed in grief. The police suspected the man who told Mohamed to go to the capital might be involved, trying to get the father away to make the second kidnapping easier. But interrogations led nowhere. Despite extensive investigations, the police reached no conclusions, and the case was closed as committed by an unknown perpetrator. 6 years later, the children's grandmother became gravely ill. On her deathbed, she asked her son Mohamed for forgiveness, as she had something to confess that she had kept secret to protect his honor. She explained that before Abeer became pregnant, she had struggled with infertility. Grandmother had taken her to a sorcerer who claimed he could help. He asked the grandmother to leave the room while he performed rituals on Abeer. This continued monthly until Abeer finally became pregnant with the twins, and again later with Selim. Years later, after a fierce argument, Mohamed threatened Abeer with divorce and marrying someone else. Terrified, she confided in her mother-in-law that Mohamed was infertile, something she had only recently realized. During one session, she woke from the anesthesia early and understood that the treatment involved non-consensual acts by the sorcerer. The grandmother, upon learning this, did everything she could to keep Mohamed from divorcing Abeer, afraid he would learn the children were not his. Things got worse when she found out the grandfather had written a will leaving everything to the grandchildren, whom he believed were his biological descendants. To protect the family's reputation, the grandmother decided to get rid of the children. She took Selim first, exploiting the guard's sleep to kill him and throw his body in an abandoned well, then planted his toy in the guard's room to frame him. When Mohamed traveled to the capital, she hired men to kidnap and kill the twins, throwing them into the same well, and paid them for their silence. Mohamed was devastated by the confession. He went to the well, discovered the bodies of his 3 children, and, overcome with rage, turned himself in to the police, claiming he had killed them himself after learning they weren't his. He also revealed the name of the sorcerer. The grandmother, fearing for her son, confessed everything to her husband, who rushed to the police to exonerate Mohamed. But when police came to arrest her, they found her dead, having passed away before they could take her in.